Hi, we're here with Tech Field Day Extra at the VMworld Barcelona 2014 with some friends. We just had two of the vendors present to us, and now we're just going to have a roundtable conversation. And let's start with this summer we had the announcement of Evo Rail, which is VMware's hyperconverged play in the market. Today, or at least yesterday, we finally had two additional vendors, HP and HDS. HP was a big miss in the original launch. I think we can also agree on that. That was a big miss. Before we maybe going into the details of Evo Rail as such, is there anyone that wants to go after the architectural change? Is that a change for everyone or not? Is the whole market going to drive that way? Which parts, yes or no?
I'm going to take part of that because I worked at a consulting company that we used to do a lot of deployments. And once the high-end market went away because they knew how to run their own VMware shops, we started targeting the mid-market. And one of the things we kept trying to build was, as prepackaged as possible, a collection of standard Dell 720s plus some equal logic arrays, automate as much as we could the deployment so that we just come in and say, here's my IP addresses, here's my stuff, let's roll this out as fast as we possibly can and get ourselves out of here. And I completely see EVO, the rail stuff, perfectly working in that small to medium-sized business that just want, I need VMware, I need something to run my stuff on, make it as simple as possible. I can completely see those companies being completely seduced by this kind of thing.
It's basically the next iteration of like a reference architecture, only not being...
but it's become a push-button reference architecture.
Yeah, it's not just on paper, it's an actual implementation.
But on the flip side, what does that mean for all of the small to mid-sized consulting firms that their bread and butter is deployments?
Because they're going to shift to troubleshooting, I guess.
Exactly.
It's not going to anyway, completely. There's still going to be cases where this doesn't fit.
Totally.
And anyway, the cost is not so cheap. So depending...
does anybody know how much it costs?
I think that the average is 150,000 euro per block.
The license
is the average.
The license is Enterprise Plus and is mandatory Enterprise Plus. So does an SMB fit with Enterprise Plus? Maybe. And only for VMware license.
It's included the Enterprise Plus login site and vSAN. It's included.
Of course, but
it's the login site advanced. It's not the top level.
Doesn't it even?
It's included.
Yeah, but it doesn't include NSX then.
There's no NSX.
No. It's the Evo Rail. Evo Rail include the NSX.
Say goodbye to the small to medium.
Evo Rail is different servers as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a data center, entire data center, a movable data center.
So maybe we should wait a little bit on Evo Rail. I just use it as an introduction because we still have hyperconvergence as such is not necessarily Evo Rail or the tanks. You could say that an HP server with a left-hand VSA or a Maxta VSA, which is still something you would deploy the same way as you deployed a physical box with a physical server. Is there a different play? Is VSA as such as a model the go forward, or is it the deployment different?
I think the key word there is viability.
Yeah.
It's the fact that if I buy...
How many SKUs are you going to run?
That's right. If I buy my HP server and I put my left-hand, my data core VSAs, or whatever I want on the inside, that's a purchase and service.
Yeah.
The Evo Rail is you rack it, you push the start button,
it's just
you
a purchase,
plug in a couple of IP addresses,
just be sure that the network is redundant and you are finished.
Exactly.
Network and power.
That's right.
Of course.
Yeah.
I think
from
that's
that perspective, it's an interesting discussion to see where hyperconvergence starts and where it ends. Is a pure VSA? Is that a hyperconverged solution? No, it's not. But what is?
How do we define it?
Does hyperconvergence by nature means it has a push install button, one click, and we have the compute and storage stack, which is not the case for a left-hand Maxa data core and other VSAs. It's only the case for Nutanix SimpliVity, which you buy in an appliance as such.
I think an example of automation.
You're paying someone else to have done the other work you haven't. If you just want to either push a button, buy one thing, someone else has done it.
Yeah.
So that's just not form factor. It's just
I think it's a power example of automation because you can automate everything, included the installation. So it's not mandatory that the installation is in this way, but if you want to have a service that can grow as you want with new blocks, when you need new blocks, you must power on and just see in the interface and say, okay, I want to add. And Evo Rail works in this way, like in your house when you have a universal plug-and-play system. Oh, I have this NAS, okay, just connect to him.
Yeah, it's true, but what happened now for the partner? Because the partner, the profit is services, it's not software, hardware. If a partner has 1 week for maybe deploy SAN storage and 3 nodes, and now only need 1 day, so the profit for the partner is the services. What happened now?
Well, you have to move on. I mean,
Exactly.
You're not tuning memory on a Windows machine the way you used to because
same risk is with public cloud.
I get it from a partner perspective, but is the use of a partner not serving the customer? Why would I charge my customer today a week or more deployment for a 3-server plus box implementation? It just doesn't make sense to charge those services to a customer today. It's kind of ripping them off.
There's still flexibility there. I could have someone come to me and say, I want any make of server and any make of storage, and then there's still a peak there for a partner and say, yep, I can put that together for you. Yeah. If I want that exact box and that exact configuration, then maybe you can go with one of converged solutions. So there's a middle ground where people go, actually, that's not really going to suit me.
Also today, there was the different 3 cases, build your own, converged, that so blocks like VBlock,
Blueprint,
ready node,
and hyperconverged with Evo Rail.
One of the things I'm curious, I don't know with Evo Rail, I haven't looked at it in depth, is it sort of a single backplane? You've got 4, right, so someone's going to say, right, I want 4 blades and I just want a small amount, or 4 servers.
Are mini servers.
So I need 2 of those. Well, that doesn't fit me anymore. Right.
You need 3 of those
together,
because one needs to be in management.
In that case, you're back to maybe a custom fit, and then you're back to partner can put together what you need because it doesn't fit. But for some people, it will be the quicker.
No, it's still the same. It still has the same one-button installation model.
The key thing about the installation model is also think about your accounting people that are approving your purchases. When they see 1 line, 1 SKU, 1 price, as opposed to 1 thing plus 5 pages of negotiated service contract. From his perspective, I'll take the 1 SKU because it's easier for me to buy that, and I know that my support's included, all the rest of it. If I'm doing, bring your own, design your own, anything custom, I know that there's going to be a consulting component, and it's 2 things. It's my consulting contract plus a purchase. So from a purchase standpoint, Evo Rail is going to be really seductive to a lot of people that just, why are you telling, why are you making
That's always been the story with the converged infrastructures as well. The CTO ready with his pen to sign a contract.
Yes.
That was how those solutions were sold. But you see those kind of solutions getting into the smaller markets. And that's the interesting part, I think.
But still, the price points are up as high as they are. That still strikes me as...
next time, I think if you went out and took a bunch of individual rack servers and you said they're $8,000 each, and then you added on a low-end storage array, and
it's like other hyperconverged system. You have to consider everything.
There would be a massive uplift to the entry level of it. I mean,
that's true. I'm just hoping that VMware is going to be promoting it with some kind of reduced price.
I think a week worth of services is an expensive upgrade on that 3 servers plus a single EqualLogic box.
Yeah,
that is a decent amount of the invoice.
I did a study on Nutanix versus a simple Dell solution, and if you do include the services and the consulting, it doesn't.
It's pretty close.
It's pretty close. Yeah, it's about 10-15% difference.
And you're not losing the amount of time.
Right. Yeah.
Which is a win next to the cost.
Yeah.
It's
an added benefit, basically.
Because the hidden cost of what's the client time cost.
Yeah.
Because we haven't factored that in. He's got to have his guy available for the consultant to come in, open the doors, open the data center, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Without favoring any of the solutions out there, it's going to be hard in this question not to, but what would be our focal points except for the price point when we, let's say we want to have that share nothing node-based infrastructure. This is how I want to design going forward. I want node-based infrastructure. It could be a 1U server instead of a 4-node box. But let's say we want to go to shared nothing node-based infrastructure. What would be the challenges? Where do I want to look in the different columns between the vendors? What are the checkboxes I want to look at? What do I need to look at besides the price? Because most of them are going to implement in a short time.
Yeah.
What's next?
I think the most important part is metadata availability. If you look at how a lot of vendors are doing it right now, they're saying they're distributed and they're saying we're scale out, but it's
scale out.
Yeah, it's fairly limited. If you look at it from a very technical standpoint, and you really dive into like how data is stored, how metadata is stored. It's not scale out at all.
They're scale out with a very, very low ceiling.
Well, right. It looks more like a fairly small cluster than a scale out architecture.
Does that matter that much?
Simplicity goes to, 8 nodes, I think, spread across, I forget how many different combinations.
Yeah.
VMware, despite everything, is probably the highest at 32, because you can do a standard vSphere cluster with up to 32.
Yeah, but it's not just cluster size, it's metadata distribution across the nodes.
But vSAN, I think, has pretty much solved that.
No, only
not yet.
3.
No. Version 2, probably. When you have full domains, when you can define in which area you can have, like with a new firmware of Nutanix, you need more than data redundancy. You need also define how you want to handle data redundancy and where.
You say it's a low ceiling, but that plays again, the question goes into what is the market.
Exactly.
If I have an full size, so the biggest models of an 8-node SimpliVity cluster, I'm definitely bigger than the 3, the 8, 720s from Dell with 2 or 3 EqualLogic boxes.
Yeah.
You can definitely run more on that. So does it have to be 64 and 256 nodes in a cluster? I don't know if that's necessary today.
No, but again, I don't.
Some of the actual value of the scale out is you just buy one, and then as you grow, you add.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not a case of I can only get 8 right now. It's kind of if I buy that and I hit 8, then what? Have I actually lost money because now I've got to buy another whole 8?
That's right.
Yeah, but when is management going to hit it?
Yeah. Well,
You're going to hit other ceilings before you hit that physical scale out limitation.
Yeah, you might. I just say it's another consideration is the actual hardware and how far it goes and how far is it just I bought into this vision, because it's like you're buying a vendor A solution, you'll probably stick with it. And if you're thinking of doing 8 or scale out, you don't want to go, well, I have 4 of them. Actually, now I'm going to pick something else. Now I'll pick something else.
Yeah.
You want to know it's got scope to grow as far as everything else can grow.
Because even today, if you look at a classic VMware infrastructure, we're running hundreds of hosts in 16 node clusters.
Yeah. You can go to 32 now.
Or 32. I mean, just as an example.
Still center limit.
Yeah. How many people do you know that are running 32 node clusters next to each other? Right.
Fairly rare.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's only the really, really big infrastructures, and they're moving more towards OpenStack and CloudStack and stuff like that, because the size of the infrastructure makes VMware licensing cost prohibitive at that scale.
So scale out's not scale out. That was one of the issues we had. What are other things that would
heterogeneous structures? This is my biggest problem, is that depending on what particular package you're buying, some of them you can mix and match different types of nodes, and most of them, however, impose a high level of symmetry.
Yeah.
It's like if you're starting with
how
this
high?
kind of cluster,
Does anyone have examples?
Well, if you're SimpliVity, if I remember correctly, you always have to buy your nodes in pairs. You can mix and match within the management console, but for redundancy purposes, they have to be matched in pairs. For example,
can you buy 2 pairs and then one node that is double?
You can buy one node that's double, say for offsite disaster recovery and that kind of thing.
It's the same with Nutanix. You can mix different models.
But there's some constraints on that. It's not like if you take, for example, a Scale.io pure storage solution, I can add one more disk in one server, add it to the pool, and I've incrementally got whatever based on the redundancy factors.
Yeah, but that is disk level. That is disk level adding capacity. What you need in a shared nothing environment, you got X copy. You got copies of your data on different nodes.
But Scale.io is that same thing. It's that same structure. It is a scale-out.
You're just saying it's a bit more modular than some of those.
It's more granular.
The question is, what's the granularity that you're going to need to grow? Because if your unit of SKU purchase is 80,000 a shop, you have to be planning around that. Are your projects going to be coming to the table with 80,000 euros dollars to finance that? Whereas if I'm just scaling up the one component, if I have a project that comes to the table with $10,000, sure, I can buy you another X disks and we're off the races. We've got spare compute, we're good. So I think there's going to be questions about the granularity and what business models fit taking those jumps by that size of because those are getting bigger and bigger chunks.
It's a problem that has now Evo Rail that you can only scale out one block in a one block. For example, if you need 300 BDIs and it's 5 nodes, you can't buy 5 nodes. You need to buy 2 blocks. So,
and the question is, when you buy 2, that's something I haven't checked into it yet. If you buy 2 blocks, do they integrate together and share a vCenter, or they become
integrate automatically?
Automatically, you'll find the other one.
New node will be
integrated.
But if you look at Nutanix, you're able to grow with a single node.
Yes, because there is a block with a single node. But initially,
you can buy. If you start out with like 4 nodes, you can buy 2 blocks and have each block only consist of 1 node. So you'll have the spare raw iron to put a new node in.
Exactly.
That's perfectly possible without a hefty uplift. It's not that much cheaper to do it that way.
But that's the question is,
so
where's the granularity, which is going to decide if my granularity is 50,000, then I'm going to be oriented towards a smaller independent solution like Nutanix or SimpliVity. SimpliVity is probably higher than that, but whatever. Or if I can afford to grow by 150,000 euro increments, then Evo Rail starts looking interesting as well.
Well, Evo Rail does have the advantage as well of, I think, VMware being the backup. Because I think there are cases where you're going to say, we're going to buy Nutanix, and much more we all know them. A load of people are like, who have them, never heard of them, will they be here in 3 years?
And
where you go and say, oh, it's VMware.
No, but it's not actually. It's an OEM solution to the hardware vendor.
It is, but it's the VMware piece is on the hood, right? And actually, it's sort of a downside as well as a plus. There's no secret sauce. It's all the same stuff, it's vSAN, it's everything else.
Nicely packaged.
There's nothing else to understand. And while that means there is nothing extra either, you could just go and get all these bits and put them together yourself. Everyone's familiar with it. It's a known quantity. You can get it from your OEM of choice, your partner who you've already got on board. That's quite a nice.
But what do you think is the reason why they actually did Evo Rail? Is that supportability? Having just one SKU, one phone number to call?
No. I think it's a partner push. With those,
I think it's a partner push from all the A brands that are not able to compete today with 2 or 3 market leaders in the.
Absolutely. That's it.
I mean,
each vendor can become a storage vendor in this way, integrated vendor.
It's taking the vSAN ready nodes to that next step, where the others are already on for 2 or 3 years.
For VMware, it's pretty much they can't lose. Right? They help out their partners. We're very happy they get a solution where they get to bundle the whole thing and compete with everybody. VMware, whether you pick one of the Nutanix's, SimpliVities, or the Evo Rail through your choice of partner, you're all buying VMware licenses.
Well, we're back to where Microsoft was a number of while ago. It doesn't matter because the bottom level is going to be that.
You always have them somewhere in it. The more they can do that, the more their stuff gets out. And for things like vSAN, it's just another way of them saying, great, get everyone in the vSAN. By buying a converged offering, you're bundling everything together. Which means you can't go and go, I'll have OpenStack. No, sorry, this is a complete finished bundle. That's your lot.
So when we then speak about
on the VMware stack,
when we now speak about their Nutanix, SimpliVity, the ones that are out there for 2 years, 3 years in the market and have kind of a decent amount of customers. The difference now is it's VMware, but it's also running on vSAN, which is a Gen 1 storage product. Is that an issue?
Oh, yeah.
It will be for some, I think.
For some people. I think for a lot of people, they're going to suck it up and...
For some
it was an issue when you can build by yourself. some issue were on maybe not completely supported the controller or not well known controller where
or support has been put.
Well, no, that's that is build yourself.
When you make a convergent a pre-approval environment.
No, the question is not about messing up in the choice of the hardware and messing up in support. The question goes to, this is a Gen 1 storage product against Gen 3, Gen 4 mature storage products. Is that for us as technology an issue? Maybe yes. Is that for the customers an issue? Would customers today run this in production?
I think a lot of them will use it for targeted.
From buyability and from installation, yes.
It would be, but as a targeted solution today, I think the people that are sufficiently mature are going to be looking at it going, it's V1, we're cognizant, but I have a targeted VDI stack to put in place here. I have a test dev stack that just needs more capacity. Let's just rack this thing, push the button, tell the admins, there's your new vCenter instance, go have fun, and don't stop bothering me. I think in a lot of those low, not mission critical systems, we're going to see a lot of use out of that.
Okay, that brings me to a next question. You use it for, we use vSAN for a subset. Is that also for the entire market of hyperconvergence? Will we use the hyperconverged solutions for a subset of workloads, or will that just replace the data center architecture in a whole?
The architecture is gaining more traction, so I do think.
Which anyone wants to give a shot at workloads that you would never put on that share nothing node-based infrastrucures?
I can think of one, which would really just be Oracle because they haven't got one yet.
But
could this replace Tier 1?
Oh yeah.
The architecture will, yeah.
Clearly.
I think that the difference...
I'm not sure this can replace Tier 1 storage arrays.
It will replace Tier 1 storage arrays when today's SAN administrators retire.
Yeah.
And we are not locked into, but we only do it this way.
The difference if you have to build a new infrastructure, so a remote office, a branch office, a new VDI project, a disaster recovery site, a developer site, or replace an existing one. If you already have invested in fiber channel knowledge, in switches, in an infrastructure, maybe it's not so easy to replace completely. So these probably could be the reason
that's
to
how
not...
Nutanix comes into the data center. That's just how they come in.
Exactly.
Oh, we have a VDI project. Let's try
You start from there. You start from some piece.
Let's do something that's as packaged as possible, because we've been deploying these things and it's always a lot of work. If I can get something in that just solves my problem today, great.
Which is ironically, actually, where Oracle, having just said they don't have one, I think have one of the best cells. They own a huge amount of the top stack. So their exadators and the exagrids and so on are a great example where they can just turn up to company and go, if you want to run that workload, we've got the whole thing top to bottom, whereas everyone else is largely, we've got a great infrastructure solution. We could even say it'll run a VDI, assuming you run View or something. They don't, unless you're a VMware, you don't own View. Whereas Oracle come and go, we are the best person to run this whole stack, we own the apps. I mean, Microsoft could do one, but they're not in the hardware. They don't likewise have an advantage. Well, okay. I mean,
they're having enough trouble with the Surface. I don't think they're going to be launching on the server side.
They do have a physical SharePoint thingy.
No, right.
Really?
Which, I mean, so you can see that being of some use when people are saying this is custom built for VDI workload. This is custom built for Oracle being a great use case of heavy databases, no LTB. You can say this whole thing is tuned top to bottom, left, right, center to run that workload.
Well, I've got two clients that were looking at Exadata for that reason. They're just saying, I just want it in its own little corner where everything's supported perfectly. I have one throat to choke.
But that's how Oracle works.
So and they can back it up with a sales team and a support team. So
that is how a lot of those little projects start off.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure.
I still want to take this one step further to that Tier 1 applications. I just don't see hyperconverged solutions running as efficient as an all-flash shared nothing array for Tier 1 applications, because you're sharing some resources, and I'm not sure you should be sharing that much CPU bandwidth, PCI background. I mean, how much can you share between a hypervisor and a Tier 1 flash array?
Now, it depends what your what kind of load you're putting on it. Because Tier 1 doesn't, I mean, Tier 1 is...
That was my question. On how far can we go with a hyperconvergence? Does it make sense to go that far?
Well, the question is just, if you have a Tier 1 application that consumes all of your physical resources, and the only reason you've virtualized it is for HA, event, and eventually for vMotion, in that case, hyperconvergence doesn't make sense. But if your Tier 1 application is made up of X VMs that fit quite nicely,
it all depends on the architecture of the application.
That's right. And totally. The fact that you're hyper-converged, from what I've been seeing, the overhead of the hyper-convergence part, that's to say your local storage stack, it's pretty light. Honestly, it's relatively light.
No, it's not. It depends.
It depends.
Bandwidth? I mean, there's you're sharing a front end and back ends.
Yeah.
It depends on what your
consumes a lot of RAM. All those.
Oh, I'm more worried about CPU cycles because
RAM, CPU,
memory's
and bandwidth.
CPU too.
Yeah. Well, CPU, if you're hitting your flash cards hard, that was the other one. If you're using standard disk SSDs, the overhead is relatively low because you've got enough other bottlenecks in the chain. If you're using PCIe flash, that's a whole other story because you can chew a whole CPU up with that with no problem. Mm-hmm. So the question is, do we stick with, can we run our mission critical Tier 1 applications on them? Technically, it's doable. Do the trade-offs make sense? Or would I be better off buying a traditional stack and doing it that way?
So let's say that we see this as a new architecture in the data center for 90% of the workloads. Could that be?
Yeah, or you
It's capable of running them. I don't know if it's the best one.
It's technically feasible.
Would that be, this is my go first, if not?
Okay, I will be the one to say I am not a major fan of large-scale hyperconvergence. I don't think it makes that much sense.
No, I mean the node-based architectures, the hyperconverged node-based architectures, would this be a preferred go-to from an architecture and only step aside from it when it's not fitting or not? Or is it just...
Not necessarily. My problem with it still rests that storage demand, CPU demand, and memory demand are not three linearly attached components. Mm-hmm. That's my problem.
And not independent.
What happens with my storage requirement? I've got a new application, which is archives. Okay, my storage requirement just went through the ceiling, but my CPU, the rest of it didn't move.
That's just dependent on the form factor you choose. If you do choose to bundle it all up into a single physical box, then you'll run into those problems.
Exactly.
But if you find some other way of scaling...
I know, but that's what I'm saying. If I can externalize, I'd rather have scale-out storage as a separate component. Mm-hmm.
No, but you can still have it in the same architecture.
Yes, you can still attach it. For example, that's one of the other advantages of Rail, is the fact that it's pure VMware stack. Mm-hmm. So if you want to pull one of those blades out and slide an extra 10 gig card for getting NFS or an extra fiber channel card, you can still attach to external storage, which is not the case with a lot of the other pure box solutions.
Are they going to let you do that though?
Yes, I converted that today. Yeah.
So what if I want to upgrade the RAM? Because I'd assume that was a sold box, set support and everything. If I say upgrade RAM, they'd be like, no, I'm assuming it's a sealed thing.
I think that is a SKU.
Because that relationship rests with you and the hardware vendor.
So if I buy an Evo Rail off HP,
the hardware vendor is actually supporting the whole stack.
I'm thinking they're not going to let me touch it, right?
Yeah.
And when a new version of vSphere comes out, I can't upgrade that.
Yep.
They own it, they manage it. They have to validate it.
I've seen that the support aspect is there, but the hardware level support and anything you want to do to that, you can go back. There's no technical limitation.
Independent
of maybe some vendor can make upgrade kit for a CPU for memory.
No, but you're not buying fees for licenses. That's the whole point. You're buying one Evo Rail.
You still have the licenses, and they are still supported and maintained, which means you are on the upgrade path.
No, you only have one license. You have an Evo Rail license.
You have an Evo Rail license, which includes 4 ESXi components. Yeah, but when you do it in a vSphere component, you still see those licenses.
So if I buy an Evo Rail, and then vSphere 6 comes out, I presume if there comes out, can't go, I'm upgrading. I've got to go to HP and go,
you can't.
Guys, when are you upgrading? Because you support this, right? If I break it, you turn around and go, you broke it. It's no longer managed, right? It can only be managed.
The reason why they
control the whole box.
Yeah, but that's why they actually removed the update function from the Evo Rail. There's a new update mechanism inside the new GUI that allows you to upgrade components. And I'm not sure if it'll upgrade everything,
You have to wait when new release of this
the Evo Rail V6 version comes
yeah,
out.
because include also SIM for the vendor part, all management part from the vendor is pre-built and pre-tested.
So obviously this is what it is with a V-block or something. You can't do individual bits. It's a preset. Everything is on this level, and you can't just upgrade the network. Or they tell you what you can apply, when you can apply, when it's been validated by that.
So
I assume Evo Rail's the same.
So final question then. The hyperconverged solutions, the ones that are appliance-based, so not the ones that you built yourself, they solve the acquisition and installation problem, right?
They ease them.
Ease them. Well, I think node-based buying from infrastructure blocks at a time is kind of well, is there a next step? Is there something beyond acquisition and installation?
No, I just think while it makes that, for the block it might be easier, but if you're anyone other than that's the only block you own, you've then still got to maybe integrate it with other bits. So while it makes that initial one easier, it's still not like, oh, we're done, those just aren't an issue anymore. There are still issues around it, but they're better than they were. It's just being finicky.
So what would be next?
Yeah, what's the logical next step?
What's the logical next step of the hyperconverged, install it and buy it in one SKU and blah, blah, blah? What's the next logical step?
It'd have to be more automation somehow.
Yeah.
So that when things blocking, and some of the vendors obviously have this, that you plug it in, it does everything behind the scenes, integrates done.
Yep.
You know, so we just saw this VM Turbo session where they're trying to say holistically, storage, networking, compute, we will just have a look at the whole thing and we will do a whole load of metrics and kind of, you'd want something similar that you would just plug in X device and there'd be a whole load of software doing a whole load of work to just plug it in, integrate it the right things, put it in your monitoring dashboards, and you have less to do of the manual stitching.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And eventually things like some of the ones I think can now do already really granular capacity planning. You bought this block, and the block is going to stand up and wave its hand and say, I'm getting a little full here. It would be a good time to start looking at buying a friend for me. I think there's going to be
make an order to the
and there'll be the one button push
like the printers. New toner.
That's right. New toner. Push here. Where's your credit card?
Doesn't Nimble actually have that option?
I think so. Yeah.
They actually have a buy now option in their info site.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's a great wrap up of this conversation, and thank you everyone for being here with us.